Welcome to today's thriller story. Let's see how crazy this woman's life really is. A familiar figure sped past her son Harry. She chased but felt Harry was swallowed by chaos. The figure vanished swiftly. Nancy dashed through the garden to the surreal street, but next second, hundreds of corpses rolled in from the depths. She looked around in horror, but in the blink of an eye, they vanished again. She hurried forward, finding icy water had reached her ankles. Nancy raised her hands instinctively, screaming in terror. Subtitles. She rubbed her eyes and awoke from the nightmare. Next day, Nancy sought the doctor, hoping for his help to infiltrate Fred's office. She suspected those photos were hidden in the office, so the next day, the doctor came to examine Fred, went to the restroom, and after tampering with the bed, panicked and fled the clinic. Everyone found Nancy and said they wanted out of the plan. They just couldn't handle the thrill anymore. But Nancy jumped right. The doctor was stunned. Thoughts of quitting vanished into thin air. That evening, with the doctor's help, Nancy climbed through the window She sneaked into Fred's office. At the restaurant, Fred, dining with his son, got a message from Gwen about the kid's new contacts. Had a problem and wouldn't come off. After waiting 10 minutes, Fred finally left the office, clueless about the impending doom. Getting lucky, she entered the office and found a locked safe behind the wall. Trying Fred's usual password, the safe clicked open. She found a manuscript and 2 postcards inside. Nancy copied the postcards, then checked the manuscript, but it wasn't as she thought. Instead, it was page after page of strange house photos featuring unfamiliar women in front, with names and addresses below. A photo read Lacey Annie, Queen of Polonia. Nancy suspected her to be Fred's mistress, while the doctor paced outside. Suddenly, she saw Fred at the clinic, frantically dialing Nancy's number upon seeing her. She instinctively scrambled to take the photos and quickly returned them to the safe, escaping through the window. Fred heard a strange noise. He entered the office, found nothing unusual. After treating Gwen's child's eyes, Fred asked if Nancy returned early. Nancy had told him earlier that she was off to shop in the neighboring town with Gwen. Gwen, however, was completely clueless about what that meant. Fred felt uneasy. In the office, he saw Nancy's accessory on the floor. Both ecstatic, they'd escaped safely. Back at the doctor's house, the emotions were still swirling, and they both felt an intensity in the air. Suddenly, an ear-piercing horn blared outside, shattering the mood. The doctor stepped out to find that the very parent he had reported was outside. The parent was furiously honking, clearly there to confront him. Without waiting for the other to step out, the doctor grabbed a stick and charged out. Without hesitation, he thrashed the car while the other jumped in shock, not daring to say a word as they sped away. The doctor said Nancy was a victim. With evidence, she could leave Fred for him, but thought of her child lingered. Subtitles. He can't do that. Next day, Nancy phoned the bank and found Fred recently made a purchase at Jensen's jewelry. The sum reached $300, making her increasingly uneasy. One night, she found pearl earrings in the river and returned to her bedroom. Yet, on her bed lay an exquisitely wrapped gift prominently marked with the Jensen's jewelry label. At that moment, Nancy was stunned. The misunderstanding seemed to unravel itself, but the underlying unease remained. Guarding the items from the river, Fred then emerged, opening Nancy's eyes with his presence. With a gentle tone, Fred reminisced about how they had bickered just after their wedding, using trust he had long learned. Now, he wouldn't press further but hoped Nancy would fix the broken bond, so everything could return to how it was before. Nancy tried hard to remain calm, saying she would become a better wife deserving of Fred, appreciating all she had. Just when things seemed to settle, images of the doctor began to flood her mind. The doctor's figure, his gaze, his voice, and the intimate moments they shared surged within her, making her heart long for him even more. The doctor's longing grew stronger, and he could no longer resist dialing the doctor's number. He muttered to himself about how his life felt like suffocating in carbon monoxide, slowly choking without noticing. After a moment of silence, the doctor advised him about the town. If Nancy left Fred for herself, they'd be ruined by town gossip. But Nancy said, at least we'll lie for ourselves, and not just exist. The doctor posed the most practical question. What if he lost Harry over this? Nancy replied without hesitation that his kid's mother wouldn't lose custody. But the doctor knew better. This is not just family strife, it's a power struggle. Fred, Harry's father, followed church directives. He was the community's moral role model, yet divorced. Under town's legal and public pressure, Nancy could barely see her kid monthly. Hearing this, Nancy didn't shrink back. Instead, she whispered her plan. While Fred went on a business trip to Greenway, she would stealthily follow, playing private detective with her camera. As long as she got solid evidence of his affair, she could completely flip the script. With the upper hand, Fred would have nothing to say as long as she had the proof in hand, all conditions set by him. The doctor paused, then nodded, knowing the danger but unable to stand by. He couldn't let Nancy go through this alone. To keep Harry safe, Nancy arranged for him to stay over at a friend's place while she sneaked around. They arrived at a hotel, and while Fred was down, Nancy snuck in under the guise of being his wife, using the key. She found unsettling items, handcuffs, men's underwear, and dog food. Nancy took photos, her doubts growing. What did these items imply? A peculiar kink, or something even darker? Meanwhile, the doctor continued to shadow her.